Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk9527. Cryptopunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today, please welcome Punk7634. He's a Atty with a front beard, fedora, earring, and cool big shades. He's a punk maxi and builder of Foreverpunks.com, a community-owned marketplace. Please welcome Foreverpunks to the show. Foreverpunk, hey, how are you?
GM, thanks for having me on the podcast. Super excited. I've been a fan for a long time. Listened to a lot of episodes. So I'm super excited to be on, Maxwell. Thanks for having me.
Likewise, man. I think we've been conversing for quite some time now, just about punks and liking and retweeting each other's tweets. So it's been fun sort of last 6 months getting to know you. And I sort of see you've been deeply entwined in the punk sort of space, heading to some NFT sort of meetups with them as well. So I'd love to get, your views and your experience within the punk community so far. But maybe we can start with a soft question. How and why did you come up with the name Foreverpunk?
It's a very good question. I mean, I got into punks early 2021, and my first punk purchase basically changed my life. And once you're in punks, you know that you'll always be a punk. And that was definitely the case for me. And so for the past, let's say 2 years, I've been on the search for my Forever Punk. Last December, I found it, which is Punk7634. But that's where the name came from. And that's where the name of the platform I'm building came from.
Nice story. When you say life-changing for you, what does that mean?
Well, it has many kind of levels to it, definitely the financial level, but also kind of, you spend your whole day thinking about this stuff, NFTs, punks. You ask my girlfriend, she thinks I'm crazy. Like, first thing I think of when I wake up in the morning is punks, NFTs. The last thing when I think of before falling to sleep is also punks, also NFTs. My girlfriend's not really happy with that. She wants me to think more about her, but that's what I mean by life changing.
I think we're in the same boat. I can totally relate to that, man. And just where are you calling from as well? Like, where are you sort of based?
Yeah, so currently I am in Budapest, but I am based wherever my laptop is. So I am kind of European as such. I'll be flying back to Spain tomorrow, and I was in France 2 weeks ago. So I'm all around Europe, really.
Amazing. And does that mean you can speak multiple languages as well?
Yeah, I speak 5 languages, actually. I am half Hungarian, half French. So I speak Hungarian, French, English, German, and Spanish.
Wow, that's crazy. That's insane. Well, mate, great to have you on the show. Looking forward to sort of unpacking your punk story. Maybe we can first start off with everything leading up pre-NFTs and punks and into your background. Like, what did you grow up doing? What did you study? And how did you sort of find your way across into the NFT space?
So yeah, I mean, during my childhood, as I mentioned, I lived in 5 different countries, and that really teaches you how to feel comfortable outside your comfort zone. And that's kind of super relevant for the crypto market of these days. I ended up studying mathematics in London in Imperial College, and that was kind of super useful to get this problem-solving way of thinking kind of going. And out of uni, my first job was at Uber. I was part of Uber in the early days. I was a data analyst. And loved that, did that until we got banned by the government in Hungary. That's where I was based. And that's when I kind of realized, that, these central authorities can actually, control stuff and ban stuff. And that was about 2016-ish, when Bitcoin and cryptos kind of creeped up on my radar. And then I started going down the crypto rabbit hole, and then it was already 2017, and I did all the ICOs, all the shit coining, and that was my start basically in crypto.
So Imperial College, man, you must be like a genius.
I wish I was the worst in class over there. So
Actually, who was there was another punk that it was actually NFT Stats. I don't know if you've met him
yeah,
before.
so we chat with NFT Stats. He was also at Uber.
That's right. Yeah.
So yet to get a call with him. So I'll maybe pick him after this call.
Nice. So you entered into the crypto and NFT game in 2017. Did you go through all the ICO boom and craze back then, or were you just sort of buying Bitcoin and ETH?
I did all the ICO stuff, yes, mainly Bitcoin and ETH later on, but yeah, then I thought I was the best investor in the world. We all did. And then 2018 came along and we got wrecked, as one would say. And then in 2018, 2019, a good friend of mine, Philippe, who, by the way, is kind of my partner here for Foreverpunks, we're working on it together now. He told me to read this book called The Bitcoin Standard. And so I read it twice, actually, and I really kind of got to understand the value proposition of, Bitcoin, this digital gold narrative. And, during the bear market, I was somewhat of a Bitcoin maxi, putting all my paychecks aside into Bitcoin. So that was nice. And then along came COVID and then the run-up of, 2021. And then, NFT started.
So being a Bitcoin maxi, what was the transition into ETH like? Was it easy for you, or was there like a lot of mental resistance for you to do that?
Well, when you're a Bitcoin maxi, kind of everything other than Bitcoin is kind of a shitcoin. So even when I was buying ETH back in 2017, I didn't really know what it was. For me, it's just some other coin. But then, you had this DeFi summer thing, then the NFTs started, and then you kind of see an application that is kind of interesting and that has this maybe staying power. Then I got into crypto Twitter. You're following really smart, influential people. They kind of understand the value prop of ETH. And then I followed that and I bought into that. So yeah, it was not that hard as one might think.
Nice. And so, okay, talk to us about your first foray into NFTs. Like, how did you discover NFTs? What was your first NFT?
As a kid, I played a lot of Pokemon. Game Boy, Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Blue, all that kind of stuff. This thing of owning something that's digital kind of really resonated to me as a kid. I would train my Pikachu and then I would have to give it to my brother and then he would train it and then he would kind of do stuff that I wouldn't want to do. Like this digital asset that you would own and improve. And early 2021, got into it through the Beeple sale, the $69 million Beeple sale. I was listening to a podcast where Beeple was on, and then I kind of looked into it. And the buyer of the Beeple was this guy called Meta Coven, who was very deep into Decentraland. And so I hopped into Decentraland, and I was like, man, this is so amazing. It's very similar to, I guess, Pokemon, with the sole difference that you can own these pieces of land inside Decentraland. And that clicked. And then I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm gonna, spend a significant amount of money on a piece of land. So I bought my first NFT, which was a land in Decentraland. And so I remember when I then afterwards had dinner with a couple of normie friends, I told them that, guys, I bought this piece of land and I'm gonna kind of organize a birthday party on it, and you can tune in kind of virtually, and I'll have a virtual DJ and stuff. Max, they were looking at me and they were like, what the fuck is he on about? And then at the end, I didn't dare telling them the price I paid for it because I thought they would never hang out with me again. But it turned out that I overpaid for that land by a significant amount. And that's what got me super curious into kind of NFTs. And then all this little dynamic around kind of buying, selling. I saw that there were traders emerging. I saw that there were collectors emerging, and I myself got into flipping, trading NFTs.
Nice. And I mean, just a side note then, what's your view on, I guess, those metaverse plays at the moment, like Decentraland, Sandbox, I think Somnium Space? Where's your current sentiment at?
Yeah, it's a good question. Very good question. I currently hold no virtual land. I still quite cannot see the value prop of it. I bought Decentraland because I thought the idea was cool, but then, a couple of days later when I actually went in there and I walked around it, it was super empty. No one was there. So I was like, okay, this is nowhere near Pokemon or RuneScape or that kind of stuff. There's no one here. So maybe on the long run, when you have these worlds with a lot of users and players in it, there can be value to that kind of stuff. But currently, it's super slow, kind of clunky, buggy. So it's somewhat of a hype at the moment, I would say.
I think I'm probably in the same boat. I just sort of feel like there's a lot of friction to get into a lot of these virtual spaces, right? Putting on VR headsets or even like just even onboarding and going in there, right? I think Decentraland was pretty slow every single time I've used it. Whereas I think, you could probably argue that we already live in the metaverse in some ways using Twitter and Discord and the like, and there's less friction for that, right? So, but yeah, there's a lot of bets on metaverse and gaming for sure. So it'd be interesting to sort of see where that one goes. But okay, so then you got into the metaverse land. How did you find your way into CryptoPunks, man? Like, how did you hear about it? How did you learn about it? And then what was your sort of process and journey into buying your first CryptoPunk?
Yeah, I love that question. So the way it happened is when the $69 Beeple sale happened, everyone was still in Clubhouse. And I was listening to a Clubhouse where Beeple, I think, was talking or something. No, Metacoven was talking. And within the same week, there was a really big CryptoPunk sale that happened, which was Perugia. So the alien sale happened, and that caught my attention. So Dylan Field was in that Clubhouse kind of giving a discourse how he was attached to his alien CryptoPunk and how a week ago he sold it for, I think it was $7 million to this anonymous buyer, Perugia. And then, a couple of hours later, Perugia came out with this legendary Twitter thread, which he still has on his Twitter to this very day. And I read it through and I was just like, holy fuck, this is amazing. And, at the end, Perugia is a reference to Vincenzo Perugia, this guy who stole the Mona Lisa back in the days. And the thread concludes saying that, this purchase for $7 million with hindsight in the future will be like a steal of the digital Mona Lisa. And that was like amazing for me, fascinating story. And what I noticed on crypto Twitter in those days, and even today definitely, is that most of the smart people, influential people that know what they're talking about were rocking a CryptoPunk. You had, DC Investor, G Money, Tycoon, Dylan Field, Perugia. They were rocking this punk and they just looked so freaking cool and I loved it. And I just needed to get one. So, I decided back then that, fuck it, I'm still young. I don't have kids. I don't have huge responsibilities. Why don't I just buy this JPEG, invest in a JPEG, and that's when I bought my first CryptoPunk.
So what was that first CryptoPunk, and how were you sort of looking through traits at that time? Like, how did you pick the very first one for you?
It's a good question. And after some time in CryptoPunks, I realized that there's essentially two types of CryptoPunks. Maybe call one a floor CryptoPunk that, one would just trade as a token. And then let's say the Foreverpunks, right? That people really take as a punk that they would make their profile, their digital brand. And, back then I just wanted a punk and become part of the community. I bought one and I didn't, I was not open about it. Till this day, I am not. It was just, a punk. And I was part of it. And then I started following it and, I got to see how the price action went up, and then Visa happened, the Visa Punk happened, and that was crazy, I remember. And so, yeah, and then a year later, I started working on this platform that I'm working on now, Foreverpunks, which is essentially a platform to help people find their Forever Punk.
We'll get onto that in a moment, but so when was your first entry into CryptoPunks, and what price did you get in it?
I think the floor was around 15 to 20 ETH back then. And it was for first half of 2021.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Pre-Visa pump.
Yeah, but like springish or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd have to check.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. So you bought that, and then did you have it when you kicked off Foreverpunks? So when did you start Foreverpunks? How long has that been around?
So Foreverpunks, I started last summer, so in August. And yeah, so the one I'm rocking currently, I got just before Christmas, this December.
So why don't you talk us through that? What was the inspiration for building Foreverpunks last August?
Sure. So you have the Larva Labs website, right? That, as punk holders, we go to 2-3 times a day at least. Very often the first thing you check when you woke up in the morning. And I personally felt that there were features missing, many features missing. So I just wanted to add a couple of features that I thought would be useful. The first one being the filtering by skin tone. So, I'm a developer myself now, and it took me 2 days to put something together. I shared it on Twitter, and, I got some good traction. Some people liked it and told me to, maybe add some other kind of filters. So I built out like a pretty advanced filtering system there. And that was kind of the first kind of feature set in there that didn't exist on the main website. And then the next thing I wanted to is a way to find good deals. Because you go on this Laravel Labs website and you have just so many punks listed and you don't really know immediately, instantly, what's a good deal, what's a bad deal. So to my website, I added price estimations and the ability to like sort by pricing. So with one click, essentially, you can sort from best to worst deal. So that's another feature we did. And the third thing that I kind of added last year was Twitter profiled and background stories. Because what makes CryptoPunks so different from, let's say, any other NFT collection or most other NFT collection is the community and the holder base. Like everyone wants to be a punk because they want to be part of this really amazing set of peoples that were, early into NFTs, early into crypto. And it's kind of like telling their story. And essentially that's what you're doing, Maxwell, is like bringing these stories forward. I felt was also needed. So I attached Twitter profiles to the punks that I could identify, and I have a link also to their backstory. So for example, if you go on to Perugia's profile, you have a link to his Twitter thread. If you'll go to my profile, I'll probably link back to this interview so that people can learn more about me, or a link to your interview. So things like that.
No, it's really cool, man, because depending on who you speak to, and I know I've spoken to Robbie, who's another punk who's been around for a while. He's also the creator of Rap Punks, actually. I should get him on the show. But when you speak to him, he talks about the original CryptoPunks website as part of the body of work and artwork. And so in some ways, you can't really tweak or modify, the existing sort of website with CryptoPunks, even if you wanted to, right? Because it's sort of almost like a finished product. The contract is also contains elements of the marketplace. Everything that you sort of see, look, feel, and touch on there, you really just don't want to touch, right? Because it's a finished sort of piece. And so it's kind of nice that you're sort of doing this, because I'm with you that, when you want to look for CryptoPunks, it's kind of cool to look for different trades. I mean, skin tone and all those other bits and pieces. I think the additional feature that you've added by looking up profiles of punks adds to the story and provenance as well, and very similar to what I'm sort of doing as well. And maybe we can have a bit of a chat about this offline, but I love where you're sort of going with this. And I think there's one other thing that I really love about it is that you've got dark mode.
Oh yeah.
The OG sort of punks website was a white mode. I think it was hurting my albino eyes. So yeah, good work with that.
I mean, the dark mode came from the fact that, when I check it, it's early morning and late at night, and the bright white just, kills your eyes. So that's why we added dark mode. And many people wanted dark mode, so we did that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if you've got a feature for it yet, but how would you deal with all the transactions that are happening on, say, Blur and OpenSea for the Rap Punks? Because I'm presuming that you won't be able to pick up those flaws. And
that's a very, very, very good question. And I was speaking with my developer literally yesterday about this topic. So what we'll be doing fairly soon is essentially aggregating listings, right? Because now if you look at it, you have the wrapped punks on Blur, and then you have the normal CryptoPunk listings on the Laravel Labs website. And currently there's no place where you just go and you see everything listed. So we're working now on a feature where you'll just be able to get an overview of everything in one place, and that's going to be on our platform.
That's super cool. And what do you sort of envisage for Foreverpunks next? Like, where do you want to take that?
This was, I guess, the main question that I really kind of want to talk through, because we have interesting things in the pipeline that we'll be announcing soon. For me, the main thing that has been missing from CryptoPunks, the CryptoPunks marketplace since its existence, has been proper bidding, right? So bidding for punks is currently broken. If you bid on a punk, you can only bid on one punk at a time. If you bid on a punk, you have to lock up your ETH. Many times, if your punk bid gets accepted, there's a chance you'll be front run. And there's no real way of doing collection and trade bidding for punks. And the reason for that is because Cryptopunks are not ERC721 tokens like all the other NFTs like, say, Bored Apes. A couple of months ago, I reached out to my good friend and very good smart contract developer, Philippe. And I told him, Philippe, listen, would there be a way how we could add collection and trade bidding to Foreverpunks? And so he was intrigued by it. He understood the value prop. And most punks that I speak to understand that this is a problem that needs fixing. And he looked into it. And firstly, he looked into how a wrapped punk solution would look like, right? So using wrapped punks to make the bidding. So what he found was, firstly, with wrapped punks, you couldn't really do bidding on different traits. And also, like, to sell a wrapped punk, it would be like a 6 or 7 signature like transaction thing. So we didn't go that route, and we ended up implementing a solution that is very clean, a 2-transaction like bid acceptance process, and that uses directly the original Cryptopunks contract.
Oh, wow.
And so this is a feature we'll be rolling out in the coming weeks. And so essentially, Foreverpunks will now become somewhat of a marketplace where people can bid on Cryptopunks. They can do collection bids, they can do trade bids, they can essentially combine any like subset of punks, and we'll be able to make bids on that.
Without having to wrap the punk at all, right?
Without having to wrap their punks, because note that if you wrap your punk leaves your wallet, right? It no longer is in the Maxwell wallet, it is in the kind of aggregated wrapped punks wallet, right? And so for provenance, that's really ugly, I'd say. If you look at like the provenance of wrapped punks, it's all this kind of transfers. Whereas with this solution, it will be like very, very clean, and provenance will be nice. And essentially the swap for the CryptoPunk and the ETH will happen in one transaction, all atomically in one transaction. And so we decided that, okay, this is something that does not yet exist in the market. How shall we like bring this to market that resonates with, let's say, the community? And we decided that, we're going to try something that has not really been tried before. And we want to turn Foreverpunks into a fully community-owned and governed punks marketplace, okay? And so what we're going to do is we will have an NFT drop of 1,000 passes, okay? And the revenue that is generated through this marketplace will be split, and it will go back straight to those 1,000 NFT holders. So if you own one of these passes, you will essentially own a piece of the revenue of the market, of this marketplace, and you will also be able to participate in like governance of the marketplace. So if you want, let's say, like a feature to be developed, you will be able to propose a proposal, and then we'll have some sort of voting system in place. And if you want, I don't know, some sort of configuration changes in the platform, like, for example, increase or decrease the fee of the platform, that's also going to be a proposal. And what we're thinking here is really to involve as many punks as possible, like the whole punk community, because it's something that we believe that, as a community, we need something like this. And I was in Paris last week. The sense of punks community was really strong. And this is what we kind of want to tap into and get going.
So a few questions, like as I'm sort of listening to you. So in terms of the marketplace, are you looking to add a transaction fee for the marketplace?
Yeah. So currently on the Larva Labs websites, it's 0% transaction fee, right? So for traditional buy and sells, there will be 0% transaction fee because that's currently what is, on the main Larva Labs website. But for accepted bids, which doesn't exist yet, we think that, let's say, a 0.5% transaction fee is totally feasible, especially if someone is going in there to buy their Foreverpunk, a punk that they're holding for, the next, 10, 20 years. Having a transaction fee, is feasible, is not a bad thing. And especially if the revenue that comes in through this transaction fee can be split with these pass holders, with the community, I think it can be a very interesting thing.
And the pass holders, so there's 1,000 passes. Are you looking to sort of sell them on primary as well? And how does that sort of all work?
So we haven't fully figured out the tokenomics yet, but the idea would be we would have a percentage for the community, like directly on primary sale. We'd reserve a percentage for like market makers and liquidity providers, and then a small percentage for the core team to kind of keep the incentive to work on it. So that's kind of what we're working on and figuring out at the moment.
Cool. Well, look forward to, I guess, when it drops and how it sort of progresses, man. Sounds like an interesting project. Maybe for something like Punk's OTC that sort of flips and trades and gets in and out of positions quite a lot as well. And obviously, people that are looking for, using that to buy their Foreverpunk, they could sort of leave a bid that might buy it, may or may not buy it, might be worth it for them as well. So, cool.
Yeah, and especially with this solution, like the playing field will be leveled. Like currently, like the market is dominated by bots, a lot of flash bots, they, buy the punk that gets listed immediately. So like, let's say the casual punk bidders they don't have much to do in the current market. But the introduction of WETH bidding means that you can essentially have 100 WETH that bids across all CryptoPunks, right? So you don't have to lock up your WETH. So you could, as you said, casually leave up a couple of bids. And, if the seller accepts it, then you get your punk. And with this solution, there's no more front running possible. So it's definitely something we kind of want to, bring to market. We're talking to a lot of punks, a lot of market makers, liquidity providers. And I think it's going to be something very interesting in the coming, weeks and months.
Cool. Well, yeah, looking forward to hearing more when you guys sort of drop it. How far do you think you're out away from launching? Do you think?
So, I mean, the tech is ready. We're currently going through audits and code reviews. We have a couple of, famous developers looking at the code. We're setting up some of the legal stuff, but, announcement. I mean, I don't know when this podcast will air, but I'll be announcing on my Twitter, in the coming days, and then the actual NFT drop will be, even within probably early April or maybe end of March. So let's see.
Cool. Mate, so then let's talk about your current punk, 7634, front beard, fedora, earring, and cool big shades. What was your purchasing journey towards this punk? Like, he's definitely a noticeable and definitely not a floor punk. He looks pretty cool with the big glasses and the fedora. What was your thinking about buying him as you sort of searching for traits in your forever punk?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago when I published this, I wrote a very cool thread about how I picked this specific one. And the argument over there was that I wanted a punk around which I could kind of build a brand, a personal brand. And I wanted to pick a punk that is kind of the main trait combo was not yet taken by any other like famous punk. A couple of examples would be, the tassel hat would be taken by Novo, for example, or the tiara by Fubar, or, the knitted cap by Maxwell, and so many others. And spending so much time on crypto Twitter, I noticed that there's no Fedora Big Shades punk yet that is prominent on crypto Twitter. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is, a super cool looking punk. I love the big shades because, it's this pink color with like 3 different tones of pink. One of my good friends, Chuli, she's, very known for her big shades. So I kind of felt aligned with that. Also kind of the Foreverpunks brand is, pink. And so kind of that ties in with the branding color. And, like the little cool earring is this very kind of a subtle touch, but it definitely gives this nice tone to it. So yeah, that's the one I went with, and I'm super happy with it, and looking forward to build out the personal brand and be as active as I can in NFT Twitter.
No, it definitely stands out for sure, and I think you are starting to make that an iconic brand of yours. So well done on the purchase. And if money wasn't an issue, what would be your dream punk?
Love this question. Probably one of my favorite punks is Punk9400. So for those listening that cannot pull it up, it's a blonde wild hair punk with a VR headset, a pink lipstick, and a pipe. And I think that's a very kind of unique punk because the pipe represents this notion of the past, whereas the VR headset stands for, let's say, the future. And, stuck in between these two, you have this crazy blonde hair lady. And the combination of all this for me is just so amazing and perfect. And, I'd love to maybe one day own that punk. I knew the previous owner of that punk. He told me he would never sell it, but he ended up selling it for 300 ETH. I don't know who the new buyer is.
Crazy.
But that's such a beautiful punk to me.
She's pretty dope. And it sounded like that you had this answer ready to go. You knew exactly which punk to go for.
Maybe not prepared for this podcast, but that's a common question that I just this is the punk. How about yours, Maxwell? Because you always ask about us. What's your kind of dream punk if money was not an issue?
Good question. I got a thing for hoodies, and I don't know, there's just something menacing and dark about them that I really love. But I think if I'm honest, I sort of feel like I've just grown into my current punk with the orange knitted cap. And I think I'm really happy with 9527. If money wasn't an issue, I mean, I could buy them, collect them, but I probably wouldn't feel the same level of connection just because I just built a brand around my existing punk, right? So it just wouldn't be the same, if that makes sense. And so as cheesy as it might sound, 9527 probably is my dream punk. But if I had to choose another one, it'd probably be hoodie punk. The one that I actually love the aesthetics of is that ape hoodie that Seed Phrase just sold. That was a really, really cool looking punk. So maybe that one. But that's just like flex on flex, right? So maybe another world. And for you, how do you sort of see punks? Are punks art for you?
I mean, punks are definitely art for me. I am mega obsessed about the traits. I've been going through all the traits in and out for the past 2 years. But also they're very kind of, distinguishable on Twitter as a profile picture. They inspired a whole set of, PFPs, if not all of them. I've had a lot of calls with Noah these days. I love that guy, and what he's doing for punks is so good. He said that, for him, he's treating arts like a dead artist's estate. And, we had the announcement with the Centre Pompidou in France. There's some big museums kind of in America that are going to have punks. And I definitely, it's like a collection that started off a movement, and that stands for something. And that's why I think so many people, they, their goal is to get a punk.
Yeah. I sort of get the sense of many people that are in this space, they're flipping up with the hope of trying to attain a punk one day. But I don't know, that's what I was doing for sure when I first started out. That's what I can see.
Yeah. You see many threads these days that come out that, bought my first CryptoPunk. It has been my NFT goal. And here's my journey, how I flipped my way up to a punk. And I love those threads, and I always retweet them.
Same. And in this bear market, do you have your eye on any collections? Are you net buying or net selling? Are you sort of interested in anything at the moment?
So at the moment, these days, I'm not very much of a trader. I'm very much of a hodler. I mean, so most of my stuff are not in NFTs. They're mostly in just Bitcoin and ETH. So I'm just currently holding through this market, trying to build. For me, a bear market is about building. We want to build something really cool with Foreverpunks that when the next bull run kicks in, will be used by a lot of people. So I'm more on the builder side of things now.
Like most of the punks, which I find really cool. Everyone's just building and trying to create something new. And if you look back across your NFT career to date, is there any wins or losses worth talking about?
Maybe I start with the losses because the one that comes straight to mind is the motherfuckers. Man, I got so wrecked on those. I bought so much into the Satoshi vision. That was the other collection with which I vibed so much. And if you pull up the motherfuckers chart, you will see this peak at 6 ETH, and you can say, okay, that's where I bought all my bags. And yeah, I mean, I bought the top of the Emperors, and then Sartoshi rugged us all, which, good on him. He was a brilliant trader, brilliant community guy. I think he's back now, but it's not the same anymore. But that, I guess, financially was the biggest loss. Biggest win, I mean, maybe not one particular win, but early days OpenSea, there were so many opportunities. Like, the market was just very, very, very inefficient. And, you could just write simple bots, simple scripts to kind of arbitrate some of these punks. Not punks, some of these NFTs. And I was doing that quite a bit, just flipping JPEGs, accumulating ETH. So that was a very nice period.
Nice.
In 2021. So I would say that was more the best gains on me.
And when you look across the punk community, do you have a favorite punk personality?
Maxwell, I knew you would ask me this question. And this is, I think, the hardest question to answer, because there are so many punks that, I just love and look up onto. I don't think I could pick one. But I met so many punks in person, like just great friends, like, let's say, Chuli or Phantom Scribbler or VR Punk. These are guys I spent my 30th birthday with last year. So, they're like very close to me these days. But also you have like a couple of very well-known punks that whenever I DM to hop on a call, they always have their calendar free for me. I'm thinking of, guys like Tony Herrera or Valko or Metanomadic. Who else is there? Parzival, or even Noah. He's just so open to a call anytime. And it's just, I came up with this quote in London that owning a punk is like a shortcut to friendship. And it was a funny story. I was talking to one of the very famous punks. We grabbed the call, our first time on a call. And I was telling him I would be traveling to Asia, maybe this summer. And it turned out I would travel to the same country where he would be, but he's leaving 2 months earlier. And he's like, bro, I have this place rented for the next 2 months. Why don't I just give it to you for free and you can stay at that place? We're punks, we're buddies. And it's the first time I was talking to him. And it's really feeling that this punk community is like very strong, and it's this shortcut to friendship if you own a punk.
Absolutely. It just cuts through all the noise, right? In some ways, it's like, well, they have to have a certain intellect to really buy a punk. I think that's a big brain move. Anybody that buys a punk is a big brain move, in my opinion. And the other side too is, in some ways, that the high floor price keeps out a little bit of the riffraff, right? And so I think it just creates sort of a nice sort of atmosphere. And look, I'm not really one for exclusivity, but in the instance of curating that community and avoiding some of that, I think it's kind of nice.
Yeah. And over the past month, I mean, this floor has been like a stable coin, right? 65 ETH. It has not moved very much.
Yeah, rock solid. And
now I've been speaking to a couple of bigger punks, because I was like, okay, you have this huge bid wall on Blur. And I was like, some random punk whale could just dump 300 punk or 100 punks into this wall. And everyone was like, we don't think that punk whales are going to do that, because they're just not, that type, and they don't need this kind of stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had to describe punk culture in a few words, how would you describe that?
I would say they're very self-driven and curious people. So I'm thinking specifically, they're the type of people that figure out things by themselves. They found punks by themselves. They don't wait for kind of things to be brought to them. They're the type of guys that were mining Bitcoin early days, that participated in the ETH ICO, that, I mean, of course, not all of them, but that figured out how to mint punks when there was not even a website, when it was just like a shitty command line and stuff like that. So it's very much that type of kind of mentality. And then this leads into kind of all this, like this builder mentality, and, meeting so many punks in person, I really feel that whether it's an artist, an investor, a builder, they're very much self-driven, and they don't wait for anyone or the permission of anyone to do stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's well said. And I'm going to ask you a few questions now that have been sort of contentious topics within the punk circles, but I'd love to get your personal views on them. So the first one is what are your views on V1 punks?
Love these contentious questions. If I were to summarize my views on V1 punks in 2 words, I would say bag bias. I have a feeling that if you own V1 punks, you love them. If you don't, you feel threatened by them.
It's true.
It's part of history. You cannot argue with that. I personally do not own V1 punks, but I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting.
Cool. What about BTC/ordinal punks?
Also a controversial topic. That one was more, I guess, a cash grab. But I guess what I would say is that, you know, when I say I have a punk, everyone knows what you mean. And if you have to like be more precise about that sentence, for example, I have a V1 punk or I have a BTC punk. For me, when you have to add a word to describe it, it's a derivative, right? If you say I have a punk, then we all know what that means. If you say I have a V1 punk, it's for me a derivative. If you say I have it's a derivative, like a funk, like it's just all derivatives. And we all know what the true original punk is, even though all the others have like their own narrative.
And how do you feel about the Yuga acquisition?
Not too bad, to be honest. When it broke, it felt weird at first, but then they announced, the rights. They gave back the rights to the punk holders, and I love that. So I welcome that. I know some guys at Yuga. I'm good friends with PP Man, Noah, Spicy Tina. They're great guys. I met Gargile in Paris a couple of weeks ago. You know, he's a really nice guy, and they just, won the best for punks. So yeah, I don't feel bad about it. I think they're treating it in the right way, in the sense that they don't do anything like aggressive with them. And the fact that Noah is in charge and treating them as like pieces of art is a great thing. And so I'm, neutral/bullish on that.
Cool. And if you could pass on a message to the next owner of Punk7634, what would you like to say to them?
So yeah, this is my Foreverpunk, never selling. So most likely it's gonna go on to my kids. So I'd say, son, daughter, I love you. Take good care of this punk. Please don't sell.
Please don't sell. Nicely said. Foreverpunk, this was a fun conversation, and it was really nice to finally catch up with you, man, and hope to sort of catch you in real life. Wish you all the best with Foreverpunks, and yeah, I guess from your side, any closing comments, and how can people find you?
Yeah, thanks for the chat, Maxwell. I really appreciate what you're doing with here. Honestly, it is my #1 favorite podcast. I listen to nearly every episodes, and those that I haven't, I still have to catch up on them. So please keep on doing it. And you can find me on Twitter at foreverpunksnft, or you can straight go to the website foreverpunks.com, and we'll be announcing soon more information about this community NFT drop that we're gonna do.
Awesome. Thanks again, Foreverpunks, and looking forward to that drop when it comes out. And guys, that wraps up another episode of PunkCast for the week, and we'll be back next week with another punk. Ciao for now.